I love you. Happy 24th wedding anniversary, Vivian. Marcus Cole said it at 7:12 on a Thursday morning, standing in our kitchen with a cream-colored envelope in his hand and a smile that looked almost tender. Almost. That was the dangerous part. The coffee machine hissed behind him. The dishwasher clicked softly through its drying cycle. I stood by the sink in my old blue robe, one sleeve torn at the wrist, my hands still damp from rinsing blueberries. It was not romantic. Maybe that was why I wanted to believe it. After 24 years of marriage, romance had become something Marcus remembered only when it helped him look like a good husband. Grocery store roses, expensive bracelets I never wore, dinners where he checked his phone between courses and called it quality time. So when he slid that envelope across the table and said, "Open it," a starving part of me softened. Hope can be humiliating that way. It can go hungry for years and still lift its head when someone finally offers it a crumb. Inside was a cruise ticket. 10 days. Leaving from Miami, ocean view cabin, premium dining, spa credit. My name printed clearly on the reservation. Vivian Marie Cole. Only my name. I looked up. Marcus? He smiled wider, pleased with my reaction. You deserve it, he said. You've carried this family for years. Audrey is grown. You never take time for yourself. I looked down at the ticket again. You're not coming? Something flickered behind his eyes. Then he laughed softly. I wish I could, you know that. But the Miami conference is the same week. Investor meetings, 2 closings, the Rodriguez property, everything landed at once. He reached across the table and touched my hand. But this is for you, Viv. Not for us, for you. Viv. He had not called me that in months, maybe years. It was the name he used when we were young, when we ate takeout on the floor because we had no dining table. When we believed hard times were temporary and love would eventually reward us for surviving them. I wanted to cry. Not because the cruise was beautiful. Because some lonely part of me thought, maybe he finally sees me. That is the trap of slow neglect. You stop asking for love. Then when something looks like love, you forget to check whether it has teeth. His phone buzzed on the table. He did not look at it. That was the first strange thing. Marcus always looked at his phone. At dinner, at church, during Audrey's graduation lunch. Once, while I cried in the laundry room, because his mother had told me I was the kind of woman men stayed with out of habit. But that morning, he ignored the phone. Or maybe he performed ignoring it. There is a difference. You leave Saturday, he said. Saturday? That's in 2 days. Less time to talk yourself out of it. Let me take care of you for once. For once. I almost smiled. I had paid bills while he chased deals, raised Audrey through his business trips, hosted his clients, managed his mother's medication after surgery, balanced his accounts when his first office nearly failed. I had spent 24 years helping Marcus look like a man who could take care of everything. Then someone knocked at the side door. Eleanor Price stepped into the mudroom holding my green scarf. Eleanor was our neighbor. 68, silver-haired, precise. She had lived next door for 11 years, and in all that time, she had never entered our house without calling first. That morning, she did. I'm sorry, she said. I found this caught on the hedge. I think it's yours, Vivian. Marcus's shoulders tightened. Morning, Eleanor. Marcus. No warmth, no small talk, just his name. Her eyes moved over the cruise ticket, and for 1 second, Eleanor Price looked afraid. Not curious, afraid. She handed me the scarf, but her fingers closed around mine for half a breath. Vivian, she said quietly, may I speak to you later? Marcus answered before I could. She's got packing to do, apparently, he chuckled. Nobody else did. Eleanor leaned closer. I smelled lavender soap on her coat. Then she whispered 7 words that changed everything. Before you pack anything, check your passport. I blinked. What? But Marcus had stepped nearer. Eleanor pulled back at once. Her face became polite again. Enjoy your morning, she said. The side door clicked shut. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Marcus lifted his mug. What was that about? I don't know. Eleanor gets dramatic. He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. Lonely people do. He kissed the top of my head, picked up his keys, and said he had a showing across town. When he left, I stood in the kitchen with the cruise ticket in one hand and my scarf in the other. I told myself not to be ridiculous. I told myself a husband could give his wife a gift without it being a trap. But Eleanor's voice would not leave me. Before you pack anything, check your passport. So I went upstairs. Our important documents were kept in a gray fireproof box at the back of my closet. Birth certificates, marriage license, insurance papers, old tax files, and my passport. At least that was where it had always been. I pulled out the box. The lock was open. I never left it open. Everything looked neat. Too neat. The folders had been rearranged by color. Marcus liked color-coded order. I preferred labels. I opened the folder marked Travel. Empty. I checked again. Then again. My passport was gone. A missing passport should not feel like betrayal. But it did. Because passports do not walk away. They are moved, taken, hidden. I sat on the closet floor, while the cruise ticket waited downstairs, like a beautiful lie. I only knew this. The cruise was not a gift. It was distance. And distance was exactly what Marcus needed. Before I tell you what I found next, tell me in the comments, would you trust a gift that felt too perfect? Because I almost did. And that almost cost me everything. I searched the house like a woman, trying not to admit she was afraid of what her own home might reveal. The bedroom drawers first, then the nightstand, then the linen closet, then the old storage bin under the bed, where I kept Audrey's childhood drawings and photographs Marcus never cared enough to frame. No passport. But the more I searched, the more I noticed what had been touched. Not stolen, not destroyed, touched. That was worse. The deed folder had been moved. The mortgage papers were no longer in the sleeve I remembered. Our marriage certificate had been placed in a fresh white envelope. No longer folded the way it had been since our courthouse ceremony 24 years earlier. Someone had reorganized my life without asking me. I went downstairs and called Marcus. He answered on the fourth ring. Miss me already? His voice was light. Mine was careful. Do you know where my passport is? Silence. Not long, but long enough. Why do you need your passport? For the cruise. He laughed softly. Vivian, you don't need it for this itinerary. The answer came too smoothly. That scared me more than if he had stumbled. Oh, I said. You're overthinking already, aren't you? I just wanted to check. Viv. His voice softened. This is exactly why I booked this. You turn everything into responsibility. Let someone take care of you. There it was, care wrapped around control. I may have put it somewhere safe, he added. Somewhere safe? Yes, you leave things everywhere. I looked around my spotless kitchen. I had not left things everywhere in 24 years. Marcus hated disorder. He hated shoes near the door, mail on the counter, towels folded wrong. I had trained myself into neatness so thoroughly that even my mistakes had become organized. Okay, I said. And don't start spiraling. The word landed hard. Spiraling. It sounded prepared. After we hung up, I stood very still. Then I did something I had not done in years. I went into his office. Marcus's office sat at the back of the house, overlooking the yard. It smelled of leather, cedar candles, and expensive printer ink. Dark shelves, framed awards, a polished desk, a photograph from our 10th anniversary, where I looked tired and he looked proud. The bottom drawer of his desk was locked. It had always been locked. Client files, he said, nothing that concerned me. I touched the brass handle. Cool, solid, final. I did not try to open it, not yet. Instead, I looked at his black notebook. Marcus trusted digital calendars for other people. His real life, he kept in ink. Most entries were ordinary. Showings, closings, calls, lunch with Celeste. I stared at that one longer than I wanted to. Celeste Monroe worked with Marcus at Heroin Lane Realty. 38, polished, confident. A woman who laughed at his jokes, as if he had invented intelligence. I had met her at company dinners. She called him visionary so often it became embarrassing. Marcus said she admired him. I had said nothing. Women learn early that if we name the thing too soon, people stop looking at the thing and start looking at our insecurity. I flipped back 2 weeks. One entry was circled in black. P.O. Box, M. Then another. Signature review. Then another. My stomach tightened. E.P. Eleanor Price. Why would Marcus write our neighbor's initials in his private notebook? Before I could think further, my phone buzzed. Audrey. My daughter's name appeared with a photo from her college move-in day. She stood between Marcus and me, smiling, like she still believed both her parents belonged in the same frame. I answered. Hi, sweetheart. Mom? Her voice was cautious. Are you okay? The question went through me like a needle. Of course, Dad said you're going away for a while. It's just a cruise. I know, but... She hesitated. He made it sound different. How? He said you needed space, that you've been overwhelmed, that the trip might help you clear your head. Clear your head? Spiraling? Overwhelmed? One by one, Marcus's words began arranging themselves into a story. Not for me, about me. I sat down in his office chair. What else did he say? That you hadn't been yourself. For 24 years I had been the steady one. I remembered appointments, bills, birthdays, prescriptions, passwords, repairs, tax deadlines, and neighbors' spare keys. Now Marcus was telling people I was unstable. Not loudly, not cruelly. That would have been easier to fight. He was doing it softly, with concern in his voice. The most dangerous lies are the ones spoken with a sigh. Mom? Audrey whispered. Are you and Dad okay? For 1 second, I almost told her everything, but she was 21. Still young enough to love both of us, still innocent enough to hope adults told the truth when it mattered. So I gave her the safest version of honesty. I'm figuring something out, I said, but I need you to listen carefully. Okay. If your father asks whether we talked, say yes. Don't mention what we discussed. Don't argue with him. Don't defend me. Just listen. Her breathing changed. Mom, you're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. What's going on? I looked toward the locked drawer. I'm not sure yet. But that was a lie. Maybe not the kind Marcus told, but a lie all the same. Because deep down, I was sure of one thing. My husband had hidden my passport. He had told my daughter I was not myself. And somewhere inside his locked drawer, behind a brass handle I had respected for 24 years, was the reason why. That afternoon, I did not confront Marcus. Not because I was calm. But questions gave Marcus exits. If I asked about my passport, he would say he protected it. If I asked why he told Audrey I was overwhelmed, he would say she misunderstood. If I asked why Eleanor's initials were in his notebook, he would tilt his head and say, Vivian, listen to yourself. So I said nothing. I made lunch, answered emails, folded towels, performed the ordinary life of a wife, while something inside me quietly caught fire. Around 3, Marcus's phone lit up on the kitchen counter. Celeste Monroe. I did not touch it. I only looked. The call stopped. Then a text appeared. Once she's on the ship, everything starts. For a moment, the kitchen lost its shape. There are sentences that do not raise questions. They answer the ones you were afraid to ask. Celeste was not just standing too close in company photos. She knew. Whatever Marcus was planning, she knew. I heard the shower turn off upstairs and stepped away from the phone. My hands shook, so I picked up a dish towel and wiped the counter, back and forth, like a woman cleaning while her life burned. Marcus came down wearing the navy sweater I had bought him 2 Christmases ago. He looked handsome. That made the betrayal worse. Did anyone call? He asked. Celeste. His hand paused. Work stuff. I figured. He studied me. Marcus had always been good at that. Not loving. Studying, like houses. What could be repaired, what could be hidden, what could still be sold. You okay? There it was again. Soft concern, sharp wire. I'm fine. You seem tense. I'm thinking about packing. His shoulders loosened. He moved behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Once, that would have comforted me. Now I felt trapped between his chest and the sink. You're going to come back later, he murmured. This trip will help you accept the next chapter. You know. Audrey is grown. Life is changing. You and me figuring out who we are now. You and me? Of course. But in the window's reflection, he did not meet my eyes. That night, Marcus went into his office and closed the door. I stood in the hallway with a basket of laundry and heard pieces of his call. Saturday morning. She won't be able to challenge it immediately. No, he doesn't need to know that yet. Then, his real laugh. I walked away before I heard more. Upstairs, I tried to log into our joint bank account. The password had changed. I tried the old one. Our anniversary. Audrey's birthday. Nothing. For years Marcus said he handled investments because numbers stressed me out. The insult was almost elegant. I had done bookkeeping for 17 years. Numbers did not stress me out. He was not protecting me from money. He was protecting the money from me. I checked my email. No bank statements after January. No mortgage notices. No insurance updates. Nothing. It was as if someone had slowly turned down the volume on my own life. After Marcus fell asleep, I checked his gray overcoat in the hall closet. Inside the pocket, I found a restaurant receipt. 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, 1 dessert. Date, February 11th. The night he said a contract kept him at work until midnight. At the bottom, written in a woman's handwriting, were 5 words. Can't wait for our real anniversary. I sat on the bottom stair and cried silently. Because infidelity hurts, but planning does something worse. Infidelity says, I wanted someone else. Planning says, I needed you gone. And Marcus did not just want another woman. He wanted another life. One where my name, my claim, and my voice could be packed into a suitcase and sent out of reach. The next morning, before Marcus woke up, I walked to Eleanor's house with the receipt in my palm. She opened the door before I knocked. That told me she had been waiting. Come in, she said. Her kitchen smelled like tea and lemon polish. She put water on without asking what I wanted. I sat at her table. Why did you tell me to check my passport? Eleanor turned off the kettle before it whistled. Because I saw Marcus with a man outside your garage 2 weeks ago. What man? I don't know. Dark sedan, tan coat, expensive shoes. Marcus handed him a large envelope. What did you hear? Eleanor's face became older. Not enough to accuse anyone, she said. Enough to worry. What did you hear? She took a breath. Passport copy, travel confirmation, your signature. The room went still. I whispered, my passport is gone. Eleanor closed her eyes. I was afraid of that. Eleanor did not rush to comfort me. I appreciated that. Comfort too soon can feel like someone covering a wound before you have seen how deep it goes. She let me sit with the words. Passport copy, travel confirmation, your signature. Why would you need my passport? I asked. Not necessarily to use it, Eleanor said. Sometimes to control it, to copy identification, to make it harder for you to move quickly if something happens. Something happens. Those 2 words sat between us like a third person. Eleanor wrapped both hands around her mug. I worked around passenger documents for most of my career, she said. Most trips are just trips, vacations, gifts, family memories. She looked at me carefully. A few are not. I could not speak. There was a woman years ago, Eleanor continued. Her husband sent her away after a difficult anniversary, paid for everything, made it look generous. While she was gone, he moved money, changed locks, started the house paperwork, and told everyone she had abandoned the marriage after months of emotional instability. I thought of Audrey's call. Dad said you're going away for a while. I thought of Marcus's voice. Don't start spiraling. I thought of Celeste's text. Once she's on the ship, everything starts. What happened to her? She lost time, Eleanor said, and time is expensive in a crisis. By the time she came back, the story had already been told without her. For 24 years, I thought Marcus had taken little things from me. My confidence, my opinions, my right to ask where money went. Now I understood those were rehearsals. He had been teaching me not to object when he moved the larger pieces. Eleanor reached across the table. Vivian, if a man touches your passport without permission, he has touched more than your travel plans. He has touched your identity. Identity. The word went through me like a key turning. What do I do? You need proof before he knows you suspect him. He has a locked drawer in his office. Can you open it? Then, find a legal reason to open what is in your home. Quietly, document everything. When I returned home, Marcus was in the kitchen, dressed for work. Where were you? Eleanor's. His eyes sharpened. Oh? She wanted to apologize. She thought she sounded strange yesterday. And did she? I let his own words come out of my mouth. She's lonely. Marcus smiled. He believed me. That was when I understood the power of appearing smaller than you are. He left 15 minutes later. I called a locksmith. I need a locked file drawer opened in my home office, I said. It contains personal documents, and I can verify the address. The man arrived 40 minutes later. The lock gave with a small metallic click. Such a tiny sound. For such a large betrayal. Inside were 3 folders. Travel, House, VMC, my initials. I opened Travel first. There was my passport. Not lost, not misplaced, hidden. Beneath it were photocopies of my driver's license, my birth certificate, and the cruise confirmation with dates highlighted. I opened House, our home, the place where Audrey took her first steps, the place where I had painted the nursery yellow, with swollen ankles and hope in my chest. Now reduced to papers, signatures, and a sale I had never approved. On the last page, my name appeared. Vivian Marie Cole. Almost my signature. But not quite. The third folder was thinner. VMC. Inside was a document, giving Marcus permission to speak and act for me financially. Unsigned. Beside it was a sheet filled with practice versions of my signature. Some shaky, Some close, some almost perfect. For a second, I thought I might faint. Then Eleanor's voice returned. Document everything. So I did. I photographed every page, every signature, every date, every envelope. Then I emailed everything to a new account Marcus did not know existed. When I finished, I put the folders back exactly as I found them, closed the drawer, thanked the locksmith, and waited until his van disappeared. Only then did I breathe. But I did not break. Instead, I created another email account using a name I had not typed in years. Vivian Mercer. My maiden name. Seeing it on the screen did something to me. Before Marcus, before Cole, before shared mortgages and careful smiles, I had been Vivian Mercer. Her own laugh, her own future. I sent every photo there too. Then I printed the most important pages and carried them to Eleanor's house. She placed them inside a brown envelope and wrote my name across the front. Leave them here, she said. If he searches your house, he won't search mine first. When I returned home, I called Nolan Reeves. We had not spoken in almost 9 years. He had been a friend from community college before life scattered us. He became a family law attorney. I became a bookkeeper. He once told me I had a mind for patterns. At the time, I thought he meant numbers. Now, I hoped he meant survival. When he came on the line, he said warmly, Vivian Mercer. That name just pulled me 25 years backward. For one fragile second, I was not Marcus Cole's wife. I was someone remembered before she was managed. Nolan, I said, I need to ask you something, and I need you not to comfort me until you answer. His voice changed. Tell me. I sent him the photos while we stayed on the call. Keyboard clicks, then silence, long enough that I sat down. When Nolan spoke again, the warmth was gone. Vivian, do not get on that cruise. I looked toward Marcus's office. Then I said, I think I have to. Nolan did not like my answer. I heard it in the silence before he spoke. Vivian, he said, getting on that ship is exactly what Marcus wants. I know. Then I'm not advising you to do it. We act now, you stay with Eleanor. We stop this from land. I looked toward Marcus's office. The drawer was closed again. The room looked untouched, perfect, innocent. Dangerous rooms often do. If I refuse now, he'll know I found the drawer. I said. He'll destroy whatever I haven't found. He'll tell Audrey I became paranoid over an anniversary gift. And he'll move faster. Nolan exhaled. You're not wrong, but you're not safe either. I don't think I've been safe for a long time. For years, I told myself Marcus had never hit me, so the marriage was not dangerous. But there are other ways to make a woman afraid inside her own life. Take her access, take her money, take her credibility, take her name, and place it on papers she never signed. Nolan went quiet. Then his voice became firm. If you do this, it happens under conditions. You leave only at the first safe stop. My contact meets you there. No improvising, no heroics. If anything changes, you call me and stay put. So we built a plan. Not dramatic, practical, safe enough to give me a chance. Nolan would warn the people handling the house. He would warn the bank. He would reach out quietly to the man Marcus expected to verify my signature. I would act grateful. I would pack. I would let Marcus drive me to the port. I would board the ship, check into my cabin, and make sure my reservation looked active. Then, at the first safe stop, I would leave and come home using emergency cash, a second phone, and documents Nolan arranged under my maiden name. The cruise was Marcus's disappearing act. We would turn it into mine. Nolan said, do not confront him, do not threaten him. And if he gives you anything to sign, pretend you need your reading glasses. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Almost. That evening, Marcus came home with red roses, the kind men buy when they want credit for beauty without remembering what their wives actually love. My favorite flowers were white tulips. He knew that once. Maybe. For the traveler, he said. I smiled. It felt strange on my face. He watched me place them in a vase. Feeling better? About what? The trip. You seemed anxious yesterday. I arranged the roses slowly. I think you were right, I said. I need this. His shoulders loosened, just slightly, but I saw it. Marcus believed he had guided me back into the script. That's all I wanted, he said. For you to trust me. Trust me? For 24 years, I had mistaken trust for not asking questions. Now I understood trust was what honest people earned because they did not punish you for seeing clearly. I became the wife Marcus expected. I folded clothes into my suitcase, asked whether the ship had formal dinners, thanked him twice for the spa credit. I let him believe gratitude had made me soft again. Inside the lining of my carry-on, I tucked the prepaid phone Nolan had arranged. It had only 3 numbers: Nolan, Eleanor, and Audrey. My real phone could be tracked. This one could not. Inside my purse, I carried my driver's license, emergency cash, and one printed copy of the plan. My passport stayed where Marcus had hidden it. That was deliberate. If he checked his drawer before departure, I wanted him to feel secure. I wanted him to believe the key was still in his pocket. And that was when I finally understood why he had taken it. He did not hide my passport to stop me from boarding. That was never the point. Marcus knew I could still get on the ship with the documents he had left available. He wanted me gone, not stranded at the port. He hid my passport for the moment after. The moment I realized something was wrong. The moment I tried to come back quickly. The moment I needed to move without asking him for help. Every option became slower, narrower, more complicated. And Marcus did not need me gone forever. He only needed me out of reach long enough to move money, push the house sale, file his story about me, and make everyone believe I had chosen to disappear. That was the trap, not the cruise. The delay. Friday night, Marcus stood in a bedroom doorway watching me pack. "What about this dress?" he asked, lifting a coral dress from the chair. I had worn it 8 years ago to a company dinner where Celeste complimented Marcus's tie before she complimented me. "It's too formal," I said. "Take it anyway," he replied. "You never know." You never know. I wondered if he had said the same thing while practicing my signature. At 6 the next morning, Marcus loaded my suitcase into the car. "Ready?" he asked. I looked back at the front door. This was the house where Audrey took her first steps. Where I painted the nursery yellow. Where Marcus and I once ate takeout on the floor before we owned a dining table. It was also the house where I cried quietly in the laundry room. The house where my passport was hidden. The house where my signature had been practiced by another hand. Houses remember everything. "Ready," I said. The drive to the port took 90 minutes. Marcus talked too much. Traffic. Clients. Miami conference. How proud he was that I was finally doing something for myself. That last part almost made me smile. Because he was right, in a way he did not understand. At the port, his phone buzzed. This time he looked at it quickly, then slid it into his pocket. I did not need to see the name. Some women smell perfume. Some women find lipstick. I had learned to recognize timing. He hugged me near the curb. "Enjoy every minute," he said. "Don't worry about anything at home." I let him kiss my forehead. Then I looked past his shoulder and saw Celeste Monroe near the parking structure, sunglasses on, white blazer bright in the morning sun, pretending to scroll through her phone. She did not look at me. But Marcus's hand tightened once against my back. "Just once. Enough." "I'll call when I'm settled," I said. "Don't call too much," he replied softly. "Disconnect." There it was. The whole plan in one word. Disconnect. I checked in, I boarded, I found my cabin. I let Marcus believe I was exactly where he wanted me. Off land, off balance, out of reach. Then the first message arrived. A large amount of money was being moved from our joint account. 3 minutes later, another message followed. The papers for our house were already waiting for a final signature. My hands went cold. Marcus had not started the plan after I left. He had prepared it long before I packed a suitcase. The buyer was waiting. The money was moving. The lie about my state of mind had already been planted with Audrey. The cruise was not the beginning of his plan. It was the signal. Nolan's reply came quickly. "It wasn't sudden, Vivian. It was staged. He only waited until you were out of reach to press send. I'm moving on my end. Follow the plan." That evening Nolan sent one more message. He filed his version of the marriage this morning. He says you left because you were unstable. He says you walked away from the house, from him, from everything. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. After 24 years of carrying everything he kept placing in my hands, Marcus had put me on a ship and called it abandonment. I let the grief pass through me once. Only once. Then I opened the prepaid phone and typed one message. "Bring me home before his lie is finished." By sunrise, the ship had reached the one stop Nolan and I had been waiting for. Most passengers stepped off dressed for pleasure. Linen shirts, sun hats, bright dresses, vacation faces. I stepped off with one small bag, a prepaid phone, emergency cash, and 3 documents Nolan told me not to let out of my sight. My large suitcase stayed in the cabin. If anyone checked, my reservation would still look active. Marcus would still believe I was out of reach. That was all he had ever needed. Not forever. Just long enough. The air smelled of salt, diesel, sunscreen, and fried food from the tourist stalls near the pier. Life continued to be ordinary for everyone else. I wanted strangers to look at me and somehow know. But nothing stopped. The ship sat behind me, enormous and white, still pretending to be a gift. I kept walking. At the terminal exit, a driver held a sign with my maiden name, Mercer. For a moment, I could not move. Cole was the name Marcus had used to file papers against me. Mercer was the name that would get me home. Nolan called on the prepaid phone. "Are you off the ship?" "Yes." "Good. I've warned the people handling the house." "I've warned the bank. He can still try, but he can't pretend no one questioned it." "What about Audrey?" "She's safe. She knows not to argue with her father." "And Vivian, she found something." My throat tightened. "What?" "Messages from Marcus, sent before you even boarded." The world seemed to narrow. "She's bringing them." The next hour felt longer than the marriage. Marcus called twice. I did not answer. Then he texted. "Busy enjoying yourself?" A minute later. "You okay?" "Don't make me worry." I stared at that one. Don't make me worry. Even now, he made my silence sound like something I was doing to him. I typed back. Went to a spa talk. Thrown away. All good. 3 gray dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, good girl. Relax. Good girl. The phrase made something inside me go still. Not angry, not hurt. Still. Some women lose love in a single scream. Mine died in a terminal, under fluorescent lights, while strangers dragged suitcases past my knees, as if obedience were affection. As if my silence made me lovable. When I finally headed home, I looked out at the water and thought about how Marcus must have imagined me. Floating farther away. Unreachable. Delayed by distance. Trapped inside a schedule he had purchased. He had forgotten something. Distance works both ways. It can isolate you. Or it can give you room to turn around. By the time he believed I was dressing for the second dinner on board, I was already on my way back to the life he was trying to steal. Nolan met me before I went anywhere near the house. He did not hug me. I was grateful. Some kindnesses ask nothing of your body. He took my bag and said, "We have work to do." In his office, Nolan laid out the truth like a map. The fake signature, the house papers, the cruise reservation, the bank warning, the story Marcus had filed about me, my photographs, Eleanor's statement, and Audrey's messages. My marriage became evidence. I expected that to make me feel smaller. It did not. It made Marcus smaller. For years he had lived in my mind like weather. Unavoidable. Powerful. Something I adjusted my days around. On paper, he looked different. Dates. Signatures. Messages. Claims. Lies. A man can seem enormous inside a home, and pathetic inside a timeline. Nolan tapped the papers Marcus had filed. He says you left because you were unstable. He says you walked away from the marriage, from the house, from him. I laughed once. He sent me on the cruise. Yes, Nolan said. And we're going to make that very clear. Audrey arrived 20 minutes later. She entered Nolan's office, with red eyes and a backpack hanging from one shoulder. When she saw me, she stopped. For one unbearable second, she looked 5 years old again, standing in our kitchen with jam on her fingers, asking if Daddy was mad. Then she crossed the room and wrapped both arms around me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I held her tightly. "You have nothing to be sorry for." "I believed him a little," she said, "when he said you weren't yourself." I was sad. That part was true. But your father used my sadness as a costume for his lie. Audrey pulled back, her hands trembling as she opened her phone. "There's something else." She showed me a thread from Marcus. The first message had been sent the night before he gave me the cruise ticket. "Your mother has been overwhelmed lately. If she seems confused over the next few days, don't argue with her. Just let me know." The second came the morning I boarded. "She may say strange things while she's away. This trip is good for her. But I need you to trust me if she sounds unstable." And the third one, said less than an hour after the bank warning, made Audrey's voice break when she read it aloud. "If Mom decides not to come home right away, don't panic. Sometimes people need space before they accept what's best." Audrey looked at me through tears. He was preparing me before anything even happened. That was the moment I saw it land in her. Not anger, understanding. Marcus had not only lied to our daughter, he had tried to turn her into a witness before the crime was finished. And I did not let my anger at Marcus borrow her body. "That matters. You are not in the middle," I told her. "You are my daughter. That is all you have to be." By 7 that night, we knew where Marcus would be. At our house. Not alone. He had arranged a quiet meeting at our dining table, nothing loud enough to alarm the neighbors. Just Marcus, Celeste, one business associate, a man from the house sale, and the man who was supposed to verify my signature later that week. A bottle of wine sat beside the papers, because Marcus believed every ugly thing looked cleaner when poured into crystal. This was not celebration. It was rehearsal, a final practice before my name was used to move the house out from under me. Nolan looked at me. You don't have to do this tonight. I thought of my passport in the drawer, my signature practiced on paper. My daughter being prepared to doubt me before I had even left. My home filled with people reviewing a theft not yet complete. Yes, I said. The lights were up. You can stay here, I told her. She shook her head. No. He used me. I need to hear him say it when you're standing there. Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. We walked up the front path together. The porch light flickered. Marcus had straightened the welcome mat, as if a perfect mat could still prove a perfect home. I still had my key. That mattered. For all his planning, Marcus had forgotten one simple thing. I still had the right to open my own door. The voices softened, then stopped. Marcus stood at the dining table with Celeste beside him. One business associate across from him, a man from the house sale near the window, and another man holding a folder in both hands. A bottle of wine sat between the documents. Marcus always believed ugly things looked cleaner when poured into crystal. For 1 second, he looked caught. Then the mask returned. Vivian, he said. Not my love. Not thank God. Not why are you here. Just my name, sharp and low. The man near the window blinked. I thought Mrs. Cole was traveling. I was, I said. My voice surprised even me. Clear, steady, long enough for my husband to start stealing my life. Marcus set down his glass. Everyone, I'm sorry, he said, with that tired tenderness he used whenever he wanted people to see him as the patient one. Vivian has been under a great deal of stress. There it was, right on time. He turned toward me. Viv, this isn't the way to handle whatever you're feeling. Whatever you're feeling. As if facts were moods. As if signatures were emotions. As if betrayal were just a woman failing to calm down. Audrey stepped beside me. Marcus saw her, and his expression cracked. Audrey, sweetheart, why are you here? She did not answer. That shook him more than anger would have. I walked to the table and placed my folder in the center. Before you explain me to the room, let's explain the papers. Marcus's jaw tightened. Vivian, stop. I opened the folder. My passport, hidden in your locked drawer. The room went still. My identification, copied without my knowledge. Celeste looked down. A document giving you power over my money and my name. The man holding the folder stared harder now. And practiced versions of my signature. Someone breathed in sharply. Marcus's voice dropped. You went through my private files? In my home, I said. Looking for my passport. That drawer contains client materials. No, Nolan said calmly. It contained Vivian's identification and papers about her home. Marcus turned to him. Nolan Reeves, he said. Of course. Nolan did not react. That annoyed Marcus more than any insult could have. Celeste finally spoke. Marcus, what is this? I looked at her. You tell me. You said once I was on the ship everything starts. Her face drained. Marcus looked at her. And in that glance, the room learned more than any confession could have given us. The man holding the folder stepped closer and examined the page with my name on it. Marcus, he said slowly. Is this the signature page you sent me? Marcus did not answer. The man looked at me. Mrs. Cole, I never verified this signature. Marcus told me you would confirm it later. While I was away? He swallowed. I was told you knew. Marcus lifted one hand. This is a misunderstanding. I almost laughed. Women have been asked to call too many crimes misunderstandings. A misunderstanding is when someone buys the wrong milk, I said. Not when my name appears on a house sale I never approved. His eyes hardened. There he was, the real Marcus. You have no idea how complicated this is. I know exactly how complicated you tried to make it. You were never involved in the financial side, because you pushed me out of it. You didn't want the burden. No, Marcus. You wanted the access. The house went quiet. Even the walls seemed to listen. Then Marcus tried the sentence that used to stop me. Vivian, he said softly, You're embarrassing yourself. Once it would have worked. In restaurants, at dinners, in front of friends who looked away, because it was easier to accept his version than witness my discomfort. But humiliation only works when you still want approval from the person handing it to you. I did not. I'm embarrassing your plan. Celeste whispered his name. He ignored her. You should have stayed on the ship, he snapped. The words came out naked, undressed. The room heard them. Audrey made a small sound beside me. Marcus realized what he had said. Too late. I looked straight at him. Marcus, before you say another word, you should know this room has witnesses. The man you asked to verify my signature, and an emergency order already in motion. The first had been shock. This was consequence. For 24 years, Marcus knew how to control me in private rooms, but this was no longer private, and I was no longer alone. Marcus stood very still. I had seen him angry before, quietly angry, politely angry, the kind of angry that rearranged a room without raising its voice. But I had never seen him cornered. His eyes moved from face to face, searching for the softest place to land. The man with my signature page had gone pale. The house sale contact had stepped away from the table. Audrey stood beside me, shaking, but still there. So Marcus chose me. Of course he did. This has gone far enough, he said. No, I answered, it has finally gone where people can see it. Nolan placed one page on the table. The house sale has been challenged, he said. The money has been flagged. And everyone here now knows Vivian did not agree to any of this. Plain words, but they landed harder than any legal speech could have. The man holding the signature paper straightened. I need to be clear, he said. I never verified Mrs. Cole's signature. Marcus told me she would confirm it later. I looked at him. Did he tell you I was away because he sent me? The man shook his head. No. Marcus snapped. Don't answer that. But the man's face changed. Not fear. Offense. I will answer when my name is attached to a signature I never witnessed. Something shifted then. Marcus had spent years turning people into tools. But the moment a tool realized it could be blamed, it remembered it was a person. Celeste finally spoke. Marcus, you told me she knew. He turned on her. I told you to stay quiet. Audrey flinched. I felt it more than saw it. That was the voice she knew too. Not often, not always, but enough. Celeste's face reddened. You told me your marriage was over. You told me Vivian agreed to separate after the cruise. You told me the house sale was mutual. The house sale was mutual, Marcus said. With whose signature? I asked. For a moment, all the masks fell. The charming broker, the patient husband, the worried father, gone. What remained was a man furious that the object he had moved across the board had stood up and spoken. You never cared about that house, he said. You cared about making me the villain. I painted the nursery while 8 months pregnant because you had a closing dinner. I refinanced when your first business almost collapsed. I took care of your mother in our guest room for 7 months while you told people you were under pressure. I paid bills in that house, raised our daughter in that house, forgave loneliness in that house. My voice stayed even. That made the words heavier. So don't stand in my dining room with my name forged on your papers and tell me I never cared about it. Nobody spoke. Marcus looked at Audrey. Sweetheart, you don't understand adult marriage. Audrey wiped her face. No, Dad, she said. I understand the messages you sent me before Mommy them left. His face changed. Audrey lifted her phone. You told me she might sound confused. You told me not to argue with her. You told me she might not come home right away. Her hand trembled, but her voice grew stronger. You were preparing me to doubt her before she had done anything wrong. The room went silent. Then, Audrey looked at me. Mom didn't abandon us, she said. You tried to erase her. That broke something in the room. Not loudly, but I felt it. A father can survive a daughter's anger. Anger still has attachment inside it. But Audrey's clarity gave him nowhere to hide. Marcus turned back to me. You think Nolan is doing this out of goodness? You think he waited 24 years to help you because he's noble? The turn was so desperate, I almost felt embarrassed for him. Nolan did not move. I smiled faintly. Marcus, the saddest thing about you is that you believe every decent act is hiding the kind of motive you would have. One by one, people began leaving. Not dramatically. Quietly. The way people leave a room when they realize staying might attach them to a lie. Celeste stayed near the wall, pale and rigid. Marcus did not ask her to stay. That told me everything about their real anniversary. It had never been love. It was escape decorated as romance. When Celeste finally reached the door, she paused beside me. "I didn't know all of it," she said. I looked at her. "But you knew enough." She had no answer. After she left, only 4 of us remained. Marcus, Audrey, Nolan, me. Marcus stared at the papers and the wine he had poured over his own plan. Then he said quietly, "After 24 years, you're really going to destroy me?" There it was. The final insult. Not, "What did I do?" Not, "I'm sorry." Destroy me. As though consequences were something I had invented. I picked up my passport from the folder. That small blue book had never felt heavier. "No," I said. "I'm going to stop helping you destroy me." The house did not sell that week. Or the next. The order Nolan had filed slowed everything down long enough for the truth to breathe. Marcus called it humiliation. Nolan called it process. I called it the first quiet morning of my life. Real consequences move slower than stories do. There were calls, reviews, questions. Long silences from people who had once believed Marcus immediately. His office placed him on leave. Celeste disappeared from the company website within a month. Some money came back. Justice did not arrive with clean edges. But I kept what mattered: my dignity, my relationship with Audrey, my right to speak without being called unstable, my passport, and eventually, my peace. 6 months later, I sold the house under terms I approved. A month after that, I leased a small townhouse 10 minutes from Audrey's campus. It had a narrow kitchen, too little storage, and morning light that poured across the breakfast table like forgiveness. Then, women began asking me to help them review household money, property papers, accounts, and documents they had signed without fully understanding. A friend of Eleanor's, then a friend of that friend. Then a woman who cried in my office because her husband always said money would stress her out. And she believed him until her debit card stopped working. I knew that sentence. So I built something from it. Not a revenge business. A return business. I called it Mercer Financial Clarity. The day the license arrived, I held the envelope for a long time before opening it. This time, the envelope was mine. Inside was a document with my name printed clearly at the top. Vivian Mercer. No Cole, no Mrs. attached to someone else's reputation. No signature practiced by another hand. Just mine. That evening, Audrey and Eleanor came over with white tulips, my favorite. Audrey placed them in a vase and said, "I know Dad always bought roses." I touched one pale petal. "Yes," I said. "He did." She looked at me carefully. "Do they still hurt?" I thought about Marcus, Celeste, the cruise, the locked drawer, the way my daughter had once been taught to question whether I was well. Then I looked around my little kitchen, at Eleanor making tea, at Audrey barefoot by the sink, at my business license on the table. "No," I said. "They remind me I survived something I once called love." That night, after they left, I stood by the window and watched the streetlights come on. For 24 years, I believed home was a place you protected even when it hurt you. I was wrong. Home is not the house. Home is the place where your name is safe. Marcus gave me a cruise ticket to remove me from my own life. But he forgot one thing. A woman who has spent 24 years holding the family together knows exactly how to find her way back to herself. If this story reminded you to protect your peace, your papers, or your power, leave the word home in the comments. And if you've ever had to rebuild after someone tried to erase you, I'd be honored to hear where you're listening from. Because sometimes the greatest revenge is not watching someone fall. Sometimes the greatest revenge is opening an envelope, seeing your own name, and realizing no one gets to take it from you again. If you stayed with me until the end, thank you. And please tell me where you listened from below. I'd truly love to know you.